Chapter 371, 221, Whole School Assembly. Big Earthquake. Mommy, Mommy, woo woo woo. The little girl was still crying, completely unaware of the fox-eared girl's presence. The fox-eared girl glanced at her, noticing her small body was covered in fresh blood, with wounds seeping blood all over. The injuries weren't severe, all superficial, but they looked chilling. Once healed, they would likely leave scars. "Stop crying, open your mouth," the fox-eared girl said softly to the little girl. The little girl ignored her, continuing to sob uncontrollably, calling for her mother. The fox-eared girl had little patience, her eyes emitting a bewitching purple light as she instantly took control of the little girl's spirit. She then commanded forcefully, "Stop crying and open your mouth." As her words fell, the crying stopped. The little girl obeyed the command, opening her mouth in a daze. The fox-eared girl lifted her jade hand and with a flick of her finger, shot an elixir into the little girl's mouth. The elixir dissolved upon contact, instantly healing the wounds on the little girl's body, restoring her damaged skin to its flawless state. Afterward, the fox-eared girl spread her spiritual power into the ruins ahead, searching for the little girl's mother. In less than 2 seconds, she found a figure within the ruins. It was a young woman. A steel rebar had pierced the woman's chest, and she had fallen unconscious due to excessive blood loss. It wouldn't be long before her life was at its end. Complete death. With a thought, the fox-eared girl created a teleportation array beneath the woman and teleported her out of the ruins. Then, with another flick of her finger, she shot an elixir into the woman's mouth. As soon as the elixir was ingested, the woman's injuries began to heal at a visibly rapid pace. Her pale complexion gradually turned rosy. She successfully escaped the brink of death. Seeing that the woman was out of danger, the fox-eared girl turned her attention to the other people around. At a glance, she saw a scene of utter devastation. Ruins everywhere. Earthlings dead or injured. Cries, moans, screams and various other sounds incessantly reached her ears. The fox-eared girl stood silently for a while, a hint of pity surfacing in her heart. Then her spiritual strength surged, creating a massive teleportation array within a few hundred meters, transporting all the earthlings on it to a safe area. Having done all this, the fox-eared girl suddenly felt a wave of dizziness, staggering a few steps as her body went limp with weakness. The expenditure was too great, her body simply couldn't support it. Moreover, there were elixirs that could ease it. The fox-eared girl steadied herself and conjured a blue pill out of thin air, swallowing it without a second thought. The blue pill turned into strands of warm blue flow upon entry, coursing smoothly toward the depths of her brain, significantly increasing the speed of her spirit generation. Just seconds later, the previously dizzy fox-eared girl instantly became spirited, with all signs of weakness gone. "Why do you want to save earthlings?" From behind, the scarlet giant tree slowly manifested a ferocious human face, its eyes filled with confusion as it asked the fox-eared girl. The fox-eared girl did not answer the question, but instead countered, "Why should I kill earthlings? Since invading Earth, naturally, you must kill earthlings. Don't get me wrong, I am not like you guys from Sun Moon Sacred Land. I never thought about invading Earth. I just hitched a ride to Earth to search for my bedmate, nothing more. Whether it is our Sun Moon Sacred Land or your Green Hills Ancient Mountain, we all represent the origin land. Our Green Hills Ancient Mountain is just a small neutral force with no ambitions, don't misrepresent our stance." Shanghai University. Family Area. As soon as Lin Zikan returned home, his parents hurriedly got up to greet him, asking him and Shen Qinghan how they were after the recent earthquake and whether they were injured. "Dad, Mom, Han, and I have both evolved to high-level biological stages, our bodies are invulnerable to knives and spears, even if the house collapses, we won't be harmed," Lin Zikan said with a smile. Zhang Wangzhen shot him a reproachful look. "You really, what do you mean the house won't hurt you if it collapses? Why would you say such inauspicious things? The sun is telling the truth. Lin Yanzheng interjected. Zhang Wangzhen glared at him dissatisfied. I'm worrying about our son, what are you arguing for? As Zhang Wangzhen glared at Lin Yanzheng, Lin Zikan took a glance at Zhang Wangzhen's belly. Almost half a year had passed, and the pregnant Zhang Wangzhen's abdomen was now noticeably bulging, with about 4 months left until the birth. A simple family of 3 would soon welcome a new member. He didn't know whether it would be a brother or a sister. Hopefully, it's a sister. Lin Zikan thought to himself. In the following time, the 2 families sat together in the living room, discussing with worried faces the scarlet giant tree that had suddenly appeared in the city center. Lin Zikan didn't discuss for long, merely reassuring his parents with some words before quickly leaving the home to go to the rooftop of the family building. Thinking that from a high vantage point, he could use the eye of the sky to get a good view of the scarlet giant tree in the city center and see the current situation. Shen Qinghan saw him heading towards the rooftop and followed without hesitation. Upon reaching the rooftop, Lin Zikan leaped onto the water tower at the highest point of the family building, gazing quietly at the city center miles away. With the effect of the eye of the sky enhancing his vision, he could see every detail over there clearly. The scarlet giant tree towered into the clouds. A vast expanse of ruins lay below the tree. All around, mechanically modified humans were busy with the rescue efforts. Chapter 372, 221, All School Assembly. Major Earthquake. _2. The scenes unfolding before my eyes seemed quite normal. But soon, Lin Zikan noticed something amiss. How come there were so few casualties in the city center after such a major accident had occurred? What was going on? Lin Zikan found this completely baffling. Meanwhile, in the city center, the mechanically modified humans responsible for the rescue operation were also perplexed. How could the area under the scarlet giant tree, the most severely damaged region, have so few casualties? This was indeed a bit eerie. But odd as it was, the mechanically modified humans did not dwell too much on this issue. Instead, they were busy evacuating the citizens from the city center to prevent further casualties should the scarlet skyscraping giant tree show any more activity. How much longer until Professor Huang, the exotic botanist, arrives? A male mechanically modified human leading the rescue team asked the female mechanically modified human beside him. The female mechanically modified human answered, he should be here in about 10 minutes. What about the military support? They will arrive in no more than 5 minutes. How many mechs can the military deploy? The Qianzhen, Changzhou, Nangwen, Daoshan, Haiwen, and Zanhai, a total of 6 mechs, can all be deployed and are rapidly approaching the city center from the provincial military district headquarters. The female mechanically modified human responded with precision. The male mechanically modified human nodded and then led a group of mechanically modified humans to immediately carry out the rescue efforts. All the scenes playing out in the city center and all the sounds were seen and heard by Lin Zikan from his family's apartment block at Shanghai University. But he wasn't focused on that at all. At the moment, his attention was entirely on the towering scarlet giant tree. The height of the scarlet giant tree was immense, exceeding a kilometer by estimations. It was twice the height of the Xiaomenyo High Tower in Changzhou City. With a diameter close to 100 meters and covering an area almost equivalent to a standard 400-meter track, it was utterly awe-inspiring. The leaf coverage area above stretched to 1,000 times the tree's footprint, encompassing 10 million square meters, casting the entire city center under a strange scarlet shadow. It obscured the sky, leaving a creepy darkness. It made one feel extremely uneasy. Lin Zikan, gazing at the scarlet skyscraping giant tree in the distant city center, had a very solemn expression on his face. Just one tree was capable of overshadowing the entire city center. In his 19 years as a human being, he had never seen such an exaggerated behemoth. Even the Kunpeng from myth, whose size was said to obscure the sky and sun, could at best only be as large as this. Lin Zi, that tree in the city center is huge, what biological level must it be? Shen Qinghan frowned slightly, feeling very uneasy. After speaking, she hesitated for a moment, then very irresponsibly suggested, I think we can't stay in Shanghai City anymore. Should we take Mom and Dad and leave? Lin Zikin shook his head and said, you can run for a while, but not forever. If Shanghai City is breached, other places will soon be breached as well. Rather than clinging to that bit of extra time, it's better to stay and defend Shanghai City and face the major disaster that might erupt. He had no intention of leaving Shanghai City and wanted to stay and advance and retreat together with it. Or more precisely, he wanted to acquire evolution resources during the upcoming disaster to accelerate his own evolution. Shen Qinghan pursed her lips and said, but I feel like clinging to life for a bit longer is better than going to the battlefield now and facing almost certain death. Lin Zikin disagreed, saying, a disaster is both a risk and an opportunity. The evolution resources on Earth are too poor to satisfy the evolutionary needs of the two of us. If we want to accelerate our evolution, we need to take on challenges, embrace risks, and kill exotic beasts and exotic plants to obtain evolution resources. The appearance of the scarlet giant tree made him relate it to the previous sudden occurrences of numerous exotic plants and exotic beasts in Shanghai City, making him suspect that all three incidents were orchestrated by the divine plant cult. He had a premonition that a multitude of exotic beasts and exotic plants would soon be pouring out of the city center, encroaching on Shanghai City. And these beasts and plants would become the nourishment for his evolution. But I think it's better to be steady, there's no need to blindly pursue the speed of evolution. Shen Qinghan thought about Lin Zikin's words, but still felt unconvinced and could only weakly reply. She didn't want to take risks, she simply wanted to live well with the people that mattered. Lin Zikin patiently explained to her, you have to understand that time waits for no one. The current situation on Earth is visibly bad. If we don't evolve into higher level beings within the limited time, the day Earth completely falls, we will have no means to protect ourselves and can only wait to die. In order to have the strength to protect ourselves when that day comes, we need to accelerate our evolution every second, take a bit more risk, and be a bit more aggressive. No sooner had he finished speaking than his phone in his pocket started to vibrate violently. Lin Zikin took out his phone and saw a notification from the school app. Emergency notification. Students with a biological level of ordinary 5th order or above, please gather at the gymnasium immediately for instructions to proceed to the city center for rescue operations. Absence without valid reason will be dealt with severely. Minor cases will be disciplined, severe cases expelled, and the most severe cases imprisoned. After reading these 4 notifications, Lin Zikin raised his eyebrows in surprise. He hadn't expected going to the city center for support to be mandatory. This was almost like conscripting able-bodied men to the battlefield during a war. It seemed that the sudden appearance of the scarlet giant tree had a more serious impact than imagined. The human higher UPS must know something. Lin Zi, this seems more serious than we thought. Shen Qinghan also saw the notification on the school app, feeling very uneasy. Lin Zikin didn't say much, just said, let's go, we'll head over to the gymnasium to gather. Okay. Shen Qinghan nodded her head. Soon, the two left the rooftop, ready to head to the gymnasium. Before leaving, they went home to bid farewell to their parents and let them know what they were about to undertake. Both sets of parents became extremely worried upon hearing that their children were to assist in the city center and asked if it was possible not to go. Without a doubt, the answer they all got was that there was no choice and no escape. Su Meng walked up to Lin Zikin with a worried face and stopped in front of him, pleading in almost a begging tone. Xiao Chen, Han Han is the only daughter of Meng Auntie and Uncle Shen, you must protect her for us and keep her safe. Rest assured, Auntie Meng, I will definitely protect Han Han. Lin Zikin said with certainty. Having said that, he and Shen Qinghan no longer wasted time and quickly left home to head for the gymnasium. On the way, Shen Qinghan said earnestly, Lin Zi, if the divine plant cult's traitors capture you, I'll follow, I'll beg them to take me too. Okay. Linziken didn't offer comfort, only responding with that single word. He thought, if he were really captured by the divine plant cult, it would be good to have Shen Qinghan captured as well. Honestly, he was not at ease letting Shen Qinghan live alone. Rather than having her live a solitary existence, it would be better for both of them to survive together in the divine plant cult. Even within the divine plant cult, as long as he was there, he could ensure Shen Qinghan would be unharmed. 20-some seconds later, the two arrived at the gymnasium. Upon entering, they found it eerily empty, with only a few people around. Only the members of the student council had arrived in full. Obviously, Linziken and Shen Qinghan were among the early arrivals. Let's go over there and wait. Linziken scanned the gymnasium, pointed to a spot by the window, and said. Just as he was about to lead Shen Qinghan over there. Suddenly, the ground began to shake violently. P.S. Please support with a monthly pass recommendation. Chapter 373, 222. Unlock the Giant Rat Manual. Mechanical Genius Girl shows her love. An unexpected earthquake caught everyone in the gymnasium off guard. Fortunately, the earthquake didn't last long, ending in just a few seconds. What followed was the screen above the central martial arena displaying scenes from downtown. It was the perspective of a drone. Linziken looked at the screen and saw the scarlet giant tree in the image, beneath which the land had collapsed into dozens of bottomless caves. The mouths of the caves were densely packed and seemed like black holes in space that could swallow everything. A group of well-equipped mechanically modified humans didn't dare to approach recklessly for inspection. They only dared to release detection robots from a distance, controlling them to enter the caves to explore the depths. The detection robots had just approached the edge of the caves. The next second, dozens of pitch-black caves suddenly all burst forth with giant shadows several meters long, rushing towards the detection robots wanting to enter the caves with a buzz. It was just the blink of an eye. All the released detection robots were torn into pieces by these suddenly appearing shadows. The next second, a deafening sound of ammunition pouring resonated. The mechanically modified humans engaged with the shadows. However, in less than 10 seconds, the mechanically modified humans on the screen were overwhelmed by the continuously emerging shadows, completely vanishing from the image. Linziken watched the familiar shadows on the screen, his expression becoming very solemn. Giant mutant rats. The shadows on the screen were the giant mutant rats, missing for several years. These giant mutant rats were actually related to the divine plant cult. While Linziken looked on solemnly, everyone else around him was panicking. How could there be so many giant mutant rats? It's over, Shanghai City is doomed. I don't want to die yet. Everyone present had seen the Sakura Sea country's rat disaster from 10 years ago in video recordings and had studied it in textbooks afterward. They knew how terrible the scene had been. They knew how heavy the casualties were. They knew how terrifying the giant mutant rats were. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that almost half of the Sakura Sea country had been paralyzed because of it. Now, the land where they lived was also swarming with giant mutant rats, making everyone present feel somewhat desperate. With so many giant mutant rats, it feels like Shanghai City will become ruins just like the capital of the Sakura Sea country back then. Shen Qinghan pursed her lips pessimistically. Linziken offered a comforting word, "It'll be all right." Then he stopped speaking and kept his gaze fixed on the big screen above, constantly monitoring the situation downtown. During this time, more and more people entered the gymnasium, all looking up at the big screen above. A few minutes passed. The previously somewhat spacious gymnasium quickly became overcrowded. Students with a biological level of ordinary 5th order and above from the school had almost all gathered in the gymnasium. They were somewhat anxiously waiting for instructions to head downtown for the rescue operation. "President, should you organize this?" A female mechanically modified human walked up to Linziken and stopped, asking him respectfully. She was the former Student Union President Zhou Suihong's personal secretary and had now become Lin Zikin's personal secretary, providing him services and assisting in handling affairs. Lin Zikin didn't even glance at his personal secretary and said indifferently, "Let the vice president organize it." He had become president just to earn academic credits and had no desire to manage affairs. "All right, I understand," the secretary said and then walked towards the vice president. She had never intended to have Lin Zikin organize it, her query was simply procedural, to prevent any later complaints from him. After the secretary left, Lin Zikin sensed the presence of everyone present. Almost all were ordinary-level creatures, with less than 20 high-level creatures. The majority of the school's high-level creatures had entered the Origin Land to resist the Beast Tide earlier. The ones who had stayed were mainly the administrative staff. Apart from the administrative staff, there were 3 high-level experts from the Student Council: former President Zhou Suihong, Vice President Tan Wanyi, and the head of disciplinary affairs Han Weifeng. "Everyone, quiet down." The deputy head of the Academic Affairs Office, a man whose body was covered with more than 2/3 metal, stood upright on the central martial arena and loudly addressed the students below. The students, hearing his words, immediately quieted down to let the deputy head of the Academic Affairs Office speak. The deputy head of the Academic Affairs Office quickly got to the point, "I believe everyone has seen what's happening on the big screen. Our Shanghai city's downtown area has been attacked by the divine plant cult, causing a rat disaster. In this critical moment, as part of the Shanghai University campus, it's our duty to go downtown for the rescue. Now, please everyone line up according to your biological level. High level, over here. Ordinary 9th order, over here. Ordinary 8th order, over here. Ordinary 5th order, over here." Under the deputy head's loud commands, the students moved to their respective places, forming formations in an orderly manner. Seeing that everyone had lined up, the deputy head of the Academic Affairs Office spoke again. "This mission will be very dangerous, but it is also an opportunity. The giant mutant rats are certainly fearsome, but for us, they are a rare evolution resource. Usually, we must evolve to high level to be qualified to enter Origin Land and encounter so many exotic beasts." Chapter 374, 222, Open the Giant Rat Manual. The love expression of a mechanical genius girl, _2. And now, we're encountering so many exotic beasts on Earth, and nearly all of them are at the ordinary stage. There's no need to elaborate on the cost-effectiveness, which is already far superior to the risk of courting death by entering the Origin Land to obtain evolution resources. Everyone should cherish this opportunity to obtain a massive amount of evolution resources with minimal risk. Take this chance to soar to new heights and change your life. The Deputy Director of Academic Affairs was shouting loudly, instilling every student present with frenzied encouragement. The students were initially somewhat panicked, but after hearing the Deputy Director's words, they were suddenly all filled with excitement and eagerness in their eyes. Seeing this, Lin Zikin sincerely admired the Deputy Director on the martial stage. Just a simple speech had turned the students, who originally harbored fear, into a group surging with passion. Soon, under the arrangement of the Deputy Director, a convoy of nearly 2,000 people, carried by 40 buses, left Shanghai University at great speed and headed straight for the city center. About half an hour later, the bus that Lin Zikin was on arrived at the outskirts of the city center first. The moment the bus stopped, the high-level experts aboard swiftly disembarked and formed teams to head towards the Scarlet Giant Tree, to rescue any fellow compatriots encountered along the way, and to kill every giant mutant rat they encountered en route. When everyone had disembarked, the Deputy Director, acting as team leader, said seriously, "We are among the few high-level experts, capable of holding down a fort by ourselves. It's too wasteful to move together. We'll disperse and operate solo, trying to broaden the rescue scope and improve rescue efficiency as much as possible. But be mindful of your capability, Don't get entangled by too many giant mutant rats at the same time. Though the individual strength of the giant mutant rats is not strong, their advantage is in numbers, and if you get entangled by too many at once, there is a certain danger. After saying this, the deputy director waved his hand grandly, "Begin the operation." The moment the words were spoken, everyone immediately dispersed. Without a single unnecessary word from beginning to end. Decisive in action. Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan also chose to go their separate ways. But not too far, only a few hundred meters apart. At such a short distance, if Shen Qinghan encountered any trouble, Lin Zikan could rush over to rescue her in time. Boom! Suddenly, a dark shadow burst forth from the soil, charging towards Shen Qinghan at high speed. It was a giant mutant rat with 8 eyes. Its biological level wasn't high, only ordinary 8th order, far from being a match for Shen Qinghan. But, it was Shen Qinghan's first time facing an exotic beast alone, and she couldn't help feeling slightly nervous. However, nervous as she was, she didn't shy away from the charging giant mutant rat. As the giant mutant rat rushed towards her and opened its vast mouth to bite down, her eyes hardened, her chi blood erupted, and she threw a fierce punch directly at the rat's head. Thump! A muffled impact noise sounded. The nearly 7-meter-long giant mutant rat was instantly blown apart by a delicate fist, with red and white innards splattering everywhere. It was so disgusting. Shen Qinghan looked at the blood splattered on her and felt somewhat uncomfortable. Then she immediately focused her mind and, using the liquid manipulation ability of the Blue Spirit Jellyfish King, cleared all the giant mutant rat's blood from her body. After doing that, Shen Qinghan once again focused her thoughts, extracting all the fresh blood from the giant mutant rat's body, condensing it into a drop of essence blood that floated above her. She then took a plastic bottle, no bigger than a little finger, out of her pocket, unscrewed the cap, and collected the floating drop of essence blood inside. As for the giant mutant rat's carcass on the ground, drained of essence blood and reduced to a stinking husk, she didn't even spare it a glance and simply walked past it and onward. This was a technique taught to her by Yuan Dongji, how to collect trophies. The bodies of exotic beasts are overwhelmingly huge in most cases. Carrying the carcasses away is very troublesome. Even if you don't mind the hassle and insist on carrying them, you can't carry many. And when you can't carry away the carcasses, you can use this method of extracting essence blood to take away all the most valuable blood from the beast's bodies. If it is a high-level or higher exotic beast, you can also take an additional beast core with you. Taking both the essence blood and the beast core is basically squeezing every last bit of value out of an exotic beast's carcass. Meanwhile, Lin Zikan's way of taking the spoils of battle was even cruder and more direct than Shen Qinghan's. He simply punched the giant mutant rat to death and then used survival of the fittest to devour it, consuming all the life origin contained within the corpse, leaving nothing behind. You have devoured a large amount of giant mutant rat's life origin. Giant Rat Manual, 100%. At the moment these two pieces of text appeared, a giant mutant rat with 8 eyes gradually materialized out of the void, burrowing through the barren hard soil. In just a few seconds, the giant mutant rat had dug a bottomless hole. The speed of excavation was terrifyingly fast. Shortly thereafter, the image in the void faded, and it was replaced by 2 new pieces of text. You have successfully unlocked the Giant Rat Manual, obtaining the biometric attributes Burrowing Instinct. Burrowing Instinct, your ability to break through the soil is significantly enhanced. Lin Zikan took a glance at the effects of the Burrowing Instinct biometric attribute, and seeing that it was just a skill for digging holes, he shook his head in disdain. The Burrowing Instinct biometric attribute was the most rubbish one he had acquired through the survival of the fittest ability provided by the system. Buzz! Suddenly, a piercing boom of air exploded violently in the high sky. The noise grew louder and louder. Clearly, something was rapidly approaching. Lin Zikan, hearing the noise, looked up at the sky. What immediately caught his eye was a mechanically modified human with more than half of its body metallic, speeding through the high sky. This mechanically modified human had turned the anti-airflow propulsion device up to maximum power, and in an instant flew to Linziken's front and descended, kicking up a large cloud of dust. As the dust settled, a tall, long-haired woman, mechanically modified human with an energy core implanted in her chest, appeared within Linziken's sight, her demeanor icy cold. With just one look, Linziken recognized this mechanically modified woman. It was none other than the mechanical genius girl he had watched grow up on TV since he was a child. Now she couldn't be called a girl anymore. She should be referred to as a mature lady. Because she was nearly 1.7 meters tall, with her front and back covered in metallic materials, the semicircular curves rounded and voluptuous, and with her long, straight legs, she looked extremely sexy. She had the beauty of a punk cyberpunk. "May I help you?" Linziken asked, somewhat puzzled, looking at the mechanical genius who had suddenly landed in front of him. He had never had any contact with the mechanical genius, and they were not acquainted at all. He didn't understand what the mechanical genius girl wanted to do. My name is Lu Qingyu, I've always admired you a lot, may I get to know you?" Lu Qingyu, the mechanical genius girl, said with her cheeks slightly reddened. "What?" Linziken was momentarily stunned, not expecting her to say such a thing. Lu Qingyu explained, "Ever since you became the newcomer king of Shan University, I've been following you. I think you are very amazing and also handsome, and then I became a fan of you, thinking of you every night before I sleep." "Is that admiration?" "It sounded more like adoration," Linziken commented inwardly. After the inner comment, he was incredibly astonished. He could never have dreamed that the mechanical genius girl he had watched on the television screen for so long had actually become one of his little fans. "How about we add each other on WeChat? I have many questions I'd like to ask you for advice," Lu Qingyu said, lifting her right arm and pressing something on the back of her hand as she spoke. Linziken wasn't very keen on adding her and declined politely, "My phone is out of battery, maybe we can add each other next time." Lu Qingyu said, "No need, I've already added you on WeChat, I can even see your moments now." Linziken was a bit bewildered, "Added me?" Lu Qingyu smiled and said, "I just hacked into your phone, logged into your WeChat and added myself as your friend. I approved it from my end, and then we were connected." "Oh, I see," Linziken was somewhat at a loss for words for a moment. Just then, Shen Qinghan, who was hundreds of meters away, ran over and affectionately hooked Linziken's arm, asking curiously, "What are you two talking about?" In fact, Shen Qinghan had heard the entire conversation between Linziken and the mechanical genius girl just now. She came over to declare her territory in front of the mechanical genius girl. "Nothing much," Lu Qingyu said with a smile, looking towards Linziken. "I'll talk to you after the rescue is over." With that, she activated her anti-airflow propulsion device and immediately took off. She flew away. The three-eyed giant, 3 meters tall. The three-eyed giant suddenly leapt into the air, splitting the mechanical genius girl in half. P.S. Bowing for monthly passes and recommendation tickets. Chapter 375, 223, Three-Eyed Demon Tribe. What happened? Mechanical genius girl Lu Qingyu, staring at her severed lower half. Her eyes full of bewilderment. She couldn't understand who had attacked her. The heat sensors on her body showed no reaction, completely unable to detect the source of the attack. Buzz! The piercing sound of slicing air rose again. The next instant, a streak of light shot towards her at extreme speed, striking Lu Qingyu squarely in the chest. It pierced through the energy core in the center, blasting it into myriad fragments. "It's over. I'm going to die." Lu Qingyu felt the breath of death, her face instantly covered in despair. Then, the sound of something cutting through the air came from below her. She thought it was the streak of light coming again, to take her life. But when she looked down in despair in the direction of the sound, the figure she saw was Lin Zikan. Before she could figure out what was happening, Lin Zikan had already rushed to her side, grabbing the upper half of her body, which had a huge hole torn through her chest, in his arms. Then he expelled his chi blood, adjusting direction, and rushed towards the back of a large shopping mall. During the fall, with a mere thought, he spread his spiritual power and also drew Lu Qingyu's pair of alloy legs, her lower half, towards him through telekinesis. Seeing this scene, Lu Qingyu was extremely shocked in her heart. Flight control. This was a skill only mechanically modified humans with reverse airflow propulsion devices, or genetic integrators with the exotic beast gene for flight, could master. Other than these two, it would have to be someone with spiritual strength at the rare level to use telekinesis and achieve flight control. And Lin Zikan, neither a mechanically modified human nor a genetic integrator, and not being of high level biologically, could achieve brief flight control by expelling his chi blood. Just how potent must his chi blood be to utilize it in such a way? Is the pure blood human path so incredibly potent? This was truly shocking. The more Lu Qingyu thought, the more incredible it seemed, and she grew to admire Lin Zikan even more in her heart. After admiration came a deep envy. Lu Qingyu never liked being mechanically modified and preferred a flesh and blood body. But she didn't have a choice. When she was very young, her parents took her to undergo mechanical modification, and over half of her body parts were made of alloy metal. She could not follow the path of genetic fusion, let alone the pure-blood human path. She was destined to be a mechanically modified human for life. Buzz! 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 Suddenly, 3 consecutive sounds of slicing air erupted. 3 streams of light infused with tremendous energy shot out from the rooftop of a tall building behind them. They rocketed towards Lin Zikan in the air with the speed of lightning. Lin Zikan's reaction was incredibly fast. Prompted by the danger perception, he used the expulsion of his chi blood to adjust his falling direction in time, narrowly evading the attack. The 3 streams of light that missed their target shot towards the large shopping mall ahead the next second. Straight through the walls with a boom, knocking down a large number of rubble, leaving behind 3 startlingly large holes in the hard exterior of the shopping mall. Lin Zikan glanced at the holes in the wall, feeling a sudden chill in his heart. The destructive power of the streaks of light was too strong. Had he been hit just then, he would likely be torn apart. It was only because the alloy strength on Lu Qingyu's body was high enough that she was only slashed in half, pierced through and chilled to the core. Any other mechanically modified human would probably have been disintegrated in mid-air, turning into a pile of wreckage. Quickly, Lin Zikan landed safely behind the large shopping mall, carrying both halves of the mechanical genius girl's body. As soon as he landed, Shen Qinghan, who was hiding there, quickly walked over, her face full of worry. "Lin Zi, is she all right?" Before Lin Zikan could reply, Lu Qingyu, held in his arms, spoke, "I'm fine." "Are you sure? Don't push yourself." Shen Qinghan, looking at the gaping hole in Lu Qingyu's chest, found it hard to believe that the mechanical genius girl was truly fine. Lu Qingyu smiled, "Really, I won't die as long as my head isn't crushed." "That's good then." Shen Qinghan breathed a sigh of relief. She had no relationship with Lu Qingyu, they were not acquainted at all, they were just strangers. But still, she cared for Lu Qingyu. She didn't want to see the mechanical genius girl, who had been active on television screens since childhood, die in front of her. She would feel very sad about that. Aside from enemies, she didn't want to see anyone die before her eyes. Lin Zikan set Lu Qingyu's bisected body against the wall, and then turned to Shen Qinghan. "Han Han, take care of her for a bit, I will go find and kill the enemy hiding in the shadows who launched the surprise attack." "Lin Zi, maybe you shouldn't go, it feels dangerous," Shen Qinghan said with a face full of worry. Lin Zikan calmly replied, "If it gets dangerous, I can run faster than anyone, don't worry." With that, he turned and started walking towards the building from which the streaks of light had come. Suddenly, a massive roar sounded. It was the sound of the reverse airflow propulsion device. A mechanically modified human was coming. Linziken tensed immediately on hearing it. As he looked up into the sky, all the chi blood in his body surged wildly. Ready to attack at any moment. He suspected the enemy that had just attacked Lu Qingyu from the shadows might be the unknown mechanically modified human now creating the roaring sound in the sky, about to fly over the shopping mall. A mechanically modified human who had turned traitor and joined the divine plant cult. Chapter 376, 223, Three-Eyed Demon Tribe _2. Seeing Linziken on full alert, ready to lash out at any moment, Lu Qingyu, who was leaning against the wall, hurriedly said, "My God, it's not an enemy, it's my master coming to find me." "Your master?" "Yes, my master." After explaining, Lu Qingyu continued, "When I was shot down from the sky just now, I immediately sent a distress signal to my master. My master is also participating in the rescue in the city center, not far from us. With the precise positioning of the GPS, it won't take long to find me." After saying that, she looked up to the sky and, using her vocal cords as a megaphone, loudly shouted, "Master, over here." As soon as she finished speaking, the next second, a fully armed mechanically modified human appeared above the three of them. Linziken looked up. When he saw the face of the mechanically modified human above, his expression involuntarily froze. It was her. Linziken recognized Lu Qingyu's master. He had met her once in junior high school. It was a dark and windy night. At the time, he had ridden his bike with Shen Qinghan to buy phantom squid meat, and on their way home after purchasing the meat, they encountered a patrol dealing with a traitor from the rat god cult who had taken a hostage. The hostage was one of his kindergarten teachers, Ms. Strawberry. He threw stones at the traitor, rescuing the hostage, Ms. Strawberry. Then, the traitor turned into a rat-like being and started a killing spree. When everyone else was at a loss, a female mechanically modified human arrived just in time, blasting a laser from her chest that turned the rat man into char, before she left coolly. And now, Lu Qingyu's master who appeared in the sky above them all, was that very mechanically modified human from back then. Linziken sized up Lu Qingyu's master. Her equipment exuded a high-level feel. She seemed far stronger than she was back then. She could probably compare with a high-level fifth-order genetic integrator. It just goes to show that the strength of mechanically modified humans increases rapidly. As long as there are technological advancements, their strength can progress in an instant, without the need for hard training. Buzz! Suddenly, a sound of tearing through the air rang out. The next second, Lu Qingyu's master was hit by a beam of light, her body severed in two, and she fell from the sky. Linziken was startled for a moment. Coming to his senses, he immediately dispersed his spiritual power to use telekinesis, catching Lu Qingyu's bisected master and gently placing her beside Lu Qingyu. Very agitated, Lu Qingyu exclaimed, "Master, are you all right?" The female mechanically modified human looked bewildered. Only after hearing Lu Qingyu's cry did she come back to her senses and finally responded after several seconds, "I'm fine." The female mechanically modified human, with strength tens to hundreds of times greater than Lu Qingyu's, also didn't understand who had attacked her, or how she was attacked. Because when the attack occurred, none of her various sensors had reacted. By contrast, Linziken's danger perception did react. When previously attacked by 3 beams of light, he had instantly perceived the danger and its source. This dangerous source was located on the rooftop of the high-rise building opposite the large mall. "Han Han, stay put and don't wander off, I'll go take care of the assailant and be right back," he said. After dropping these words, Linziken forcefully pushed off the ground, creating a deep pit on the surface with spiderweb-like fractures, and shot out like a shadowy silhouette. Before Shen Qinghan could react, he had already charged into the high-rise building across from the mall. He could have chosen to use chi blood to propel himself onto the rooftop of the opposite building. But he didn't do that. Instead, he chose to sprint across the land. The enemy concealed on the rooftop could attack from a distance, taking to the air was too conspicuous and would make him an easy target. It was safer to move quickly across the land. Buzz! With a prolonged whoosh, Linziken quickly reached the rooftop of the high-rise building, and there in a corner, he spotted a massive figure. It was a humanoid creature with 3 eyes. Nearly 4 meters tall. Every part of its body was filled with sturdy muscles, brimming with explosive strength. The biological pressure it emitted was very close to a high-level 7th order. It was a high-level 6th order great perfection. Linziken, I was just about to come looking for you. I didn't expect you'd deliver yourself to me. You've saved me the effort," said the 3-eyed giant, looking at Linziken with a smirk that barely concealed his disdain. "Can it speak human language? Is this an earthling who has undergone mutation?" "No. It's not an earthling. It's a creature from the origin land. Inside its body lies an extremely unique energy source origin force. I've heard your physical body is incredibly strong. Just perfect. My race, the 3-eyed demon tribe, is known for our physical might. Now, let's see how strong your body really is." As the words fell, the member of the 3-eyed demon tribe took a sprinter's start and instantly charged toward Linziken. Then, with a massive hand as thick as a bucket, he swung a punch with an earth-shattering force at Linziken's chest. Linziken showed no fear, choosing instead to meet force with force and threw his fist out to collide with the incoming punch of the 3-eyed giant. The next second, a loud bang rang out. The 3-eyed giant's arm, thick as a bucket, burst open upon contact, and with it, his shoulder and head also exploded, turning into a shower of blood. He died on the spot. Thud! The corpse of the 3-eyed giant fell heavily to the ground. Up until the moment of its death, the 3-eyed giant couldn't understand why it had lost. When it had thrown its punch, it had deliberately avoided Linziken's head, fearing that it might crush his skull with one punch and kill him instantly, preventing the giant from taking him back to complete its task. But the reality was that during the exchange of punches, it had been killed by a single punch without any chance to fight back, not even using the most powerful 3rd eye on its forehead. It died with its eyes wide open. Looking down at the 3-eyed giant now dead beyond any doubt, Linziken gave a high appraisal, truly a race known for their physical strength. "That clash made my hand hurt a bit." Without wasting any more time, he immediately went forward and crouched down to touch the corpse of the 3-eyed giant. With a pft, his hand stabbed into the place where the heart should be and pulled out a dark blue crystal. The blue crystal was only the size of a table tennis ball. Yet, it was filled with a huge amount of special energy. "Is this a beast core? I wonder what it can be traded for." Linziken examined the blue crystal in his hand, muttering to himself. His knowledge about beast cores was limited to the fact that they were filled with a large amount of origin force, and that they could be exchanged for evolution resources in the cities of the origin land. Beyond that, he knew nothing. After examining it for a while, Linziken quickly had a thought and stored the beast core in his storage space to keep it, planning to take it out later when he entered the origin land to see what good things he could trade for. After securing the beast core, Linziken put his hand back on the corpse of the 3-eyed giant and with a thought, he activated, Devour. You have devoured a large amount of the life origin from the 3-eyed demon tribe. 3-eyed demon tribe album, 100%. As the textual information appeared, an image of a 3-eyed giant materialized in the void, using the 3rd eye on its forehead to launch stealthy, glittering attacks from the shadows. But in just a moment, the exotic beasts such as the ferocious great eagle, the phantom squid, the void eel, and others were all shot down by it, turning into stiffened corpses. Then, the images in the void dissipated, replaced by 2 new pieces of textual information. You have successfully unlocked the 3-eyed demon tribe album and acquired the biometric attribute power. Power, your strength is significantly enhanced. Power. Having seen the content in the textual information, Linziken felt quite surprised. He had thought that unlocking the Three-Eyed Demon Tribe's album would grant him a biometric attribute related to eyesight. Instead, he received a rather ordinary strength-based biometric attribute. While Linziken was taken aback, a voice more astonished than his own suddenly sounded from behind him, "You actually have a means of storage, and you can devour life origin? Who on earth are you? P.S. Begging bowl out, please give monthly passes and recommendation tickets." Chapter 377, 224. Charm Technique. Shanghai City has fallen. Exotic beasts everywhere. The voice suddenly rang out, and Linziken was shocked in spirit. The voice was very familiar. It was the fox-eared girl's voice. The fox-eared girl who appeared in the coastal forest during the military special training at the beginning of the year. As thoughts raced through his mind, Linziken quickly turned his head towards the direction of the sound. However, he found no one behind him, no sign of the fox-eared girl. It seemed to be an auditory hallucination. No. It wasn't an auditory hallucination. Linziken smelled a familiar scent. A faint fragrance of flowers. That was the scent of the fox-eared girl. The fox-eared girl must be on the rooftop. Linziken was on high alert, his senses sharply enhanced, and he spread out his spiritual power to perceive his surroundings. Yet, he couldn't sense the presence of the fox-eared girl at all. "Little bed slave, looking for me?" As Linziken was focused on sensing his environment, a sweet and enchanting voice, like the pleasant melody of a forest harp, softly rang out behind him. Upon hearing the voice, Linziken quickly turned around. The next scene that caught his eye was a fox-eared girl in a purple dress, seductively sitting on the edge of the rooftop railing, her slender and straight legs on display along with her dainty and bare jade feet. She looked incredibly alluring, filling one with wild thoughts. "You're still alive, after all." Linziken frowned slightly as he looked at the fox-eared girl. At the beginning of the year in the coastal forest, he had punched the fox-eared girl, leaving only a tail that barely clung to life. At that time, he found it strange, uncertain whether the fox-eared girl had died or escaped. Now it was clear, the fox-eared girl had indeed not died. Either she had escaped by shedding her tail, or it wasn't her real body to begin with. "Little bed slave, you were really too much that day." The fox-eared girl looked at Linziken with a resentful gaze and said, "I just wanted you to be my bed slave, yet you tried to put me to death. Men really are heartless." Linziken didn't respond to her, but with a thought, silently increased the effect of his advanced spirit to its maximum and kept his eyes unblinkingly on the fox-eared girl, scanning her. He was very clear in his mind that the fox-eared girl in front of him was extremely adept at illusion technique. Before making a move, he had to make an accurate judgment, to determine whether the fox-eared girl appearing in front of him was a clone, an illusion, or the real body. However, after observing her for a while, he still could not see through anything. What he did feel distinctly was the biological pressure emanating from her. It was high. Much higher than when he had encountered her in the coastal forest. From an ordinary 9th order great perfection back then to a high-level 9th order great perfection now. At this, Linziken's eyebrows knitted tighter. When facing the ordinary 9th order fox-eared girl, he had to play all his cards, barely winning by the skin of his teeth. Now, with the difficulty ramped up to a high-level 9th order fox-eared girl, it truly felt hopeless. "Why aren't you talking or making a move?" The fox-eared girl seemed to be able to see right through someone's heart, and said teasingly, "Did you feel the strong pressure emanating from me and get scared?" Linziken puzzled, with so many peerless geniuses in Origin Land, why did you choose to pick me, an earthling with no advantages, to be your bed slave? The fox-eared girl smiled seductively, "Because I have a thing for earthmen." After speaking, she flirted with her bangs, looked directly into Linziken's eyes, and said, "Little bed slave, you haven't answered my previous question. Why do you have storage means and can also devour life origin? Life origin. Having been in this world for so many years, Linziken heard this term for the first time from someone else. He didn't answer the fox-eared girl's question, but instead countered, "What is life origin?" The fox-eared girl was shocked when she heard this, and couldn't help but mock, "Life origin is life origin, what kind of ignorant question is that?" To her, Linziken's question sounded as nonsensical as asking why is mother a woman, why is father a man, just utterly bemusing. "Little bed slave, 3 strikes and you're out. I've already asked you twice, why do you have storage means and can also devour life origin? This is the 3rd time, you should answer my question now." The fox-eared girl sobered up, speaking earnestly and seriously. Linziken calmly answered, "There's no reason. Having storage means and being able to devour life origin are innate abilities of mine." Innate. The fox-eared girl couldn't believe it and blurted out, "Are you really an earthling?" "Linziken, I am an earthling." At this moment, he was completely relaxed. He wasn't as tense as the last time he faced the fox-eared girl in the coastal forest. Because he realized that the fox-eared girl didn't seem to hold any malice toward him. She really just wanted to take him back to Origin Land to be a bed slave. As long as his life wasn't at risk, everything else was negotiable. Of course, this didn't apply to the Divine Plant Cult, the organization of traitors. After hearing Linziken's answer, the fox-eared girl's eyebrows rose. She then said half-smilingly, "Little bed slave, I suspect you are lying to me. But I have no proof. So I'll be foolish once and choose to believe you. I hope you won't betray your future master's trust in you, otherwise, she'll make you pay later on." As she spoke, the fox-eared girl's captivating eyes shimmered, and in a charming voice, she said, "Little bed slave, I can sense that you've become much stronger since last time. I wonder if you can withstand my signature supernatural power charm technique." Chapter 378, 224. Charm Technique. Shanghai City has fallen. Exotic beasts everywhere, _2. As the words fell, the fox-eared girl puckered her appealing, rosy lips slightly and, lifting her slender, fair jade hand to her lips, let out a moo as she sent Linziken a flying kiss with her enchanting, silky eyes. The very next second, a cherry-sized purple heart-shaped mist materialized out of thin air between the fox-eared girl's lips and jade hand. As soon as the purple heart took shape, it leisurely floated toward Linziken. Linziken wanted to dodge, but found his body couldn't move. He had been mentally suppressed by the fox-eared girl. His brain had lost control over his body. He could only watch helplessly as the heart drifted closer, until it stamped precisely onto his lips. Afterwards, a warm, moist heat emanated from his lips. That was all there was to it. Apart from that, he felt nothing else. "Now that you've been struck by my charm technique, from this moment on, you will gradually start to care about me, admire me, obsess over me, until I'm the only one in your eyes, and you can't tolerate any other woman." The fox-eared girl walked up to Linziken, extended her slender, pale index finger onto his lips, and her exquisite, pretty face revealed a smirk full of playfulness. She leaned in closer, pressing her lips near Linziken's ear and softly said in a breathy, tender tone, "Soon, Shanghai City will be conquered by the Divine Plant Cult, and then exotic beasts will overrun it. During that time, I will quietly be your audience, observing how you perform amidst the beast tide. Little bed slave, I hope your performance will be breathtaking." Having said that, her figure began to blur and was disappearing at a pace visible to the naked eye. Just as her face was about to vanish, her lips parted slightly to add one more sentence, "Oh, and your future master's surname is Su, given name Jija, remember that well." As her voice faded, her image had completely disappeared. In its place, the word Su Jija slowly emerged at the spot where she vanished. At the same time, Linziken found he could move again. He didn't delay to concern himself with what the fox-eared girl was called, but was more worried about whether his body had undergone any adverse changes after being hit with the charm technique. Very carefully, inside and out, he didn't miss any part. He checked everything once over. And ultimately, he concluded that there was nothing abnormal with his body. Linziken furrowed his brows deeply. Though there was currently no strange sensation in his body, the words of the fox-eared girl Sujuja filled him with unease. What she said about him only having eyes for her in the future, unable to make room for any other women. When the pavilion master comes back, I'll have to have her check my body. Linziken muttered to himself, his furrowed brows relaxing slightly. However, they quickly furrowed again. Before Sujuja disappeared, she said that it wouldn't be long before Shanghai City would be occupied by the divine plant cult, and then exotic beasts would be everywhere in the city. If that's true, that would be terrifying. You have survived a rat disaster, successfully living through the catastrophe. Achievement: survive 100 times in different extremely harsh environments or disasters. Reward: gain biometric attributes survival of the adaptable. Total survival count, 3/100. Suddenly, 4 lines of text notifications popped up out of the void. Linziken was momentarily startled, unable to grasp what was happening. An old achievement task. It seemed to have appeared back when he was in high school. And now, after all this time, he had only completed 3% of it. The completion seemed an eternity away. He also didn't know what special effects the biometric attribute survival of the adaptable would have. Attributes from the system, none were weak. Such as use it or lose it. Tianren wisdom root. Survival of the fittest. Natural selection. Sovereign beasts and so on. All of them were extremely unique. Their effects far outweighed those gained from unlocking attributes in the compendium. Thinking. Linziken's attention quickly shifted back to the first line of the notification text. You have survived a rat disaster, living through the catastrophe. The current rat disaster in the city center was orchestrated by the sect hierarch of the divine plant cult. It was man-made, not a natural disaster. Yet, it fulfilled the criteria for advancing the completion progress of the survival of the adaptable achievement. If a man-made rat disaster counted, then by the same logic, wouldn't snake disasters, locust disasters, ant disasters, and other natural or unnatural beast disasters also contribute to the survival of the adaptable achievement progress? If they indeed could, then the survival of the adaptable achievement didn't seem so difficult to complete after all. By the time we enter the origin land, where giant beasts are as common as dogs and demons roam the earth, I estimate it won't be long before we complete our goal, and then obtain the biometric attribute survival of the adaptable. Having thought this through, Linziken reined in his thoughts and focused his attention on the battlefield below. Standing on the railing of the shopping mall's rooftop, under the enhancement of the Eye of the Sky, he could see the entire central city's battle situation at a glance. There were still many giant mutant rats in the city center. But compared to the beginning, their numbers had sharply decreased. And no more giant mutant rats were emerging from the holes beneath the scarlet giant tree. With the constant advance from all sides, it was only a matter of time before the giant mutant rats were eradicated. It could only be said that the strength of Juzhu country was indeed incomparable to that of Sakura Sea country. The rat plague that had ravaged Sakura Sea country couldn't even stir a ripple in Juzhu country. Without further thought, Linziken swiftly leaped from the rooftop more than 100 meters high, descending in free fall. It wasn't until he was about to touch the ground that he released his chi blood to slow the descent, landing safely without stirring a speck of dust. When Linziken got to the back of the shopping mall building, Lu Qingyu, who had been bisected at the waist, and her master, whose body had been separated from her head, were both attaching various parts to themselves. The two had just remotely sent instructions to bring over 2 dedicated repair boxes, using the alloy parts inside to fix their damaged bodies. Seeing that the master and disciple were all right, Lin Zikin didn't stick around and intended to leave with Shen Qinghan. Wait a moment. Lu Qingyu called out to the two people about to leave. Both Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan stopped in their tracks. Lin Zikin asked, "Is there something you need?" Lu Qingyu, "That I'd like to add your Han Han's WeChat." "Then go ahead and add her, just hack into her WeChat and do it yourself." Having said this, Lin Zikin left with Shen Qinghan, heading deeper into the city center. He didn't bother to ask Lu Qingyu why she wanted to add Shen Qinghan's WeChat. Right now, he just wanted to take Shen Qinghan with him to kill more giant mutant rats and collect more of these hard-to-come-by evolution resources. Squeak! At the sound of a sharp noise, Lin Zikin, who had traveled less than 1,000 meters, encountered a giant mutant rat nearly 8 meters long in a park ahead. At that moment, this giant mutant rat was fighting with more than 10 students from Shan University. Among these students, Lin Zikin spotted a familiar figure. It was his desk mate from high school He Yu. He Yu, at that time, was not participating in the attack on the giant mutant rat but was leaning against a tree with a pale face, appearing to be in great pain. His right arm was gone. During the recent attack on the giant mutant rat, he had been bitten and lost his arm. Now he was in agony while receiving treatment from a battlefield medic. More unfortunate than him was the body lying on the ground, whose head had been bitten off by the giant mutant rat, forever remaining on this battlefield. This is the reality of the battlefield. Cases like Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan bulldozing their way through were ultimately rare. Most people faced the risk of being killed by giant mutant rats. He Yu, how did you get so seriously injured? Shen Qinghan spotted the injured He Yu and immediately ran over to him with concern. Meanwhile, Lin Zikin raised his hand towards the giant mutant rat ahead and flicked his finger, shooting a blood arrow at the giant mutant rat. An arrow formed from condensed chi blood. Soon, a puff sound was heard. Lin Zikin's blood arrow pierced through the head of the giant mutant rat, bursting into a thick spray of blood. Having instantly killed the giant mutant rat, Lin Zikin did not approach to devour it. Although this giant mutant rat was slain by him, in essence, it was the prey of those dozen or so students from Shan University. It would have been a bit too much for him to go up and devour it. With his strength, he wasn't lacking in giant mutant rats to devour, so there was no need to snatch others' kills. Upon inquiry, he learned that Director Wu had died, swallowed whole by a rat king over 10 meters long. And in this process, inevitably, many would die at the mouths of the giant mutant rats, forever remaining on this battlefield strewn with ruins. Just then, the ground trembled. Countless vines shot up into the sky, forming a massive tree cage, trapping the entire city center. Beneath the scarlet giant tree, a pile of known and unknown terrifying exotic beasts emerged. Everyone was running for their lives. If they didn't escape now, they would die. P.S. Bowls out, begging for monthly passes and recommendation votes. Chapter 379, 225, Exotic beasts pour out of their nest. Everyone is like a bird in a cage. You can divvy up this giant mutant rat. I won't take a share. Ah! This is the prey you killed, you are going to just give it all to us. It's true that I killed it, but it's not my prey. After saying this, Lin Zikin turned and walked over to Shen Qinghan to see how He Yu's injuries were. The injuries have basically stabilized. It's just that arm, severed clean through, likely gone for good, and he'll have to live with being one-armed from now on. As for becoming a mechanically modified human, the risks are too high. The genetic structure inside a genetic integrator's body is incredibly complex, with strong rejection properties, so the risks involved in mechanical modification are too great and generally not worth the loss. Ziai Chen, I really envy your strength. If I were as powerful as you, I wouldn't be afraid even if an ordinary level giant mutant rat bit me while I stood still. He Yu looked at Lin Zikin standing before him and said with a self-deprecating, bitter smile. Back when he had just started high school, he would often show off in front of Lin Zikin, constantly thinking about how to subtly flaunt his own awesomeness in an unassuming way. Unexpectedly, in just 4 years, the gap between them had become vast as heaven and earth. One was the top student of Shanghai University. The other had just reached the ordinary fifth order in biological level. Truly lamentable. Lin Zikin knew He Yu was being self-deprecating and did not play along, merely expressing his concern calmly, "Rest up and heal. After this is over, the 4 of us in the group will get together for a meal." Soon, He Yu, whose wounds had been treated in an emergency, was taken away by the field medic. Lin Zikin did not linger long. He quickly left with Shen Qinghan to clear out more giant mutant rats. As the two ventured deeper in the direction of the scarlet giant tree, the scenes they came across became increasingly bloodier. They saw many bodies lying on the ground. They were all incomplete corpses. Among them, there were some familiar faces. One was JFEI, an opponent they had encountered at the middle school league contest back in their first year. JFEI had been a genius student at Shanghai No. 1 Middle School, sprinting 100 meters in just 9 seconds. He attended Shanghai University, a junior in the Evolution College. Now, his body was half-eaten by a giant mutant rat, his life had been forever left on the battlefield. There was also Huang Jiamin, a girl who had put 9 green caps on her boyfriend and liked to bully freshmen by leveraging her status as an older student, only to be substituted by Lin Zikin in a challenge. This senior now lay as a lone head on the ground, her body completely consumed by a giant mutant rat. Next to her head, her brother Huang Jiarui knelt weeping bitterly, while her ex-boyfriend Yan Liang, who she had cuckolded 9 times, stood silently beside, his emotions complex and indescribable. Besides these two, there was also Liu Qizi from the genius class of the first year, the strongest top scorer in Yuntian province's history, who also died horribly in the jaws of a giant mutant rat. And Zhu Shishi from the Machine God group, a female mechanically modified human, who had attended military special training with Lin Zikin, as well, had fallen on this battlefield. There was also Wu Tiancheng, an instructor from the Evolution College of Shanghai University, and the previously strongest individual in the history of Shanghai High School. He too, had perished, slaughtered by a giant mutant rat over 10 meters in length. When his body was extracted from the rat's stomach, it was so corroded that it was beyond recognition. His death was extremely tragic. Seeing Wu Tianken's corpse, Lin Zikin was quite surprised. This instructor Wu was a high-level creature. To perish inside the stomach of a giant mutant rat. It was somewhat unbelievable. On the other hand, Shen Qinghan saw so many people die tragically, and the expression on her fair face turned very grim. She had anticipated substantial casualties. But witnessing it with her own eyes, the visual impact was still too overwhelming. Deep inside, it was hard to accept. Lin Ziai, so many people have died. Shen Qinghan said softly, feeling very upset. Lin Zikin also felt bitter inside, but he maintained a calm exterior and replied, "This is an unavoidable occurrence. You'll get used to it." No sooner had he spoken than a familiar figure approached. It was the former Student Council President Zhou Suihong. At that moment, he was covered in scars, some already healing, others still bleeding profusely. He had clearly just finished a fierce battle not long ago. Lin Zikin, looking around at the corpses littering the ground, "Do you understand now why I insisted on fostering a survival of the fittest environment at our school?" Zhou Suihong, gasping for breath, looked at Lin Zikin earnestly and said. Without waiting for Lin Zikin's response, he continued, "It's because catastrophes are cruel, and the environment is extremely harsh. If you don't cultivate a strong will during these 4 years at university, then heading to the battlefield after graduation is almost like heading to the execution ground, practically a certain death." Zhou Suihong went on, "In today's rodent disaster, many people didn't need to die. It's because their mental fortitude was too weak. At the sight of the swarming rat horde, their legs went soft and they couldn't perform to their true ability, leading to their deaths. And this is just a rodent disaster on Earth, a trivial rodent disaster. If this were in the origin land, the scale of the beast tide we'd face would only be 100 times, 1,000 times, even 10,000 times more brutal than now. And you, who have never been to the origin land to withstand a beast tide, don't understand anything. You only know how to be young and arrogant, showing off in front of your peers to satisfy your own insignificant vanity. Zhou Suihong knew that his strength could not match Lin Zikin's. However, he would still stand by the principles he cherished. He wanted to use the current situation to leave Lin Zikin with no room for rebuttal, to prove that his actions were correct. Chapter 380, 225, Exotic Beasts Swarm Out. Everyone is like birds in a cage, _2. Facing this aggressive barrage of words, Lin Zikin simply said indifferently, "Will is not honed the way you do it, your methods will only drive people into the arms of the heretical sect." "Ha, quite stubborn, aren't you?" Zhou Suihong sneered coldly. As soon as his voice fell, the next second, there was a loud bang. The Zhou Suihong who stood there a moment ago now found himself heavily slamming into the ground, his face pressed tight against the soil, unable to move. An unexpected biological pressure descended from above, pinning him firmly to the ground, so much so that he could hardly breathe, his face turning red. "With strength like yours, where do you get the confidence to jump around in front of me?" Lin Zikin looked down condescendingly at Zhou Suihong on the ground and said to him emotionlessly. Vice President Tan Wanyi was not far off. Seeing the two suddenly come to blows, she hurriedly came over to persuade them, "Stop this, both of you. The situation is special right now. Whatever disagreements you have can be settled after everything is over." Lin Zikin did not even spare Tan Wanyi a glance, his tone remaining indifferent as he said to Zhou Suihong, "If there's a next time, be prepared to lie in the hospital for half a year." After dropping that line, Lin Zikin withdrew the biological pressure he had released and continued walking deeper with Shen Qinghan. Zhou Suihong's demeanor, whether good or bad, was unknown to him. The only thing he knew was that he completely disapproved of the principles this man upheld. As time ticked by second, perhaps more than an hour later, the giant mutant rats had been routed, with only a small number left hiding in the surrounding ruins, not daring to come out. The victorious humans began to clear the battlefield and tally up the casualties. A small group escorted several exotic botanists to investigate the scarlet giant tree. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan were also part of the escort squad. In addition to this couple, whose biological level reached high level, Lu Juanwu, Song Yuan, and others of slightly lower biological level were also present. "Yuan, is your arm okay?" Shen Qinghan looked at the injury on Song Yuan's arm, her voice filled with concern. With an easy smile, Song Yuan said, "It's just a minor injury, nothing serious. It will heal in a few days." After saying that, she quickly turned to express her worries. Wei Wei was seriously injured in this rat plague. She was bitten by a giant mutant rat in the waist and abdomen, and the wound looks severely infected. "I hope she's okay." While they were talking, Lin Zikin remained silent. At the moment, he was thinking about the three-eyed demon tribe individual they had encountered earlier. Several hours had passed since the emergence of the scarlet giant tree. Apart from a swarm of giant mutant rats that would gnaw at anything they saw, only one three-eyed demon tribe had appeared. He was seeing one of these humanoid creatures from the origin land for the second time. The first time was the fox-eared girl Sujuja. He was very interested, or rather, very cautious, about these humanoid origin land creatures that could speak human language. Both Sujuja and the three-eyed demon tribe displayed strength that far exceeded non-humanoid origin land creatures, posing a significant threat. Soon, the group arrived near the scarlet giant tree. Looking up at the skyscaping giant tree whose height reached over a kilometer, everyone felt an immense shock. Such a tall plant was entirely beyond everyone's comprehension. "Some of you, accompany the professors to study that exotic plant. The rest, "Follow me to explore the cave," said a mechanically modified human covered in alloy. His voice holding a magnetic quality. He was a high-level officer from the military district headquarters. His individual strength was almost reaching rare level. He could be considered the strongest person present, at least on the surface. Under his command, all but the dozen or so people going to research the scarlet giant tree followed him to explore the cave. To say it was an exploration was an overstatement, rather, they were just standing around the cave, watching as the mechanically modified humans dispatched exploration robots into the cave. Then everyone just stood there, motionless, staring at the shared screens projected by the mechanically modified humans. "Godly guy, check out my feed," said Lu Qingyu as she walked over to Lin Zikin's side, enthusiastically sharing the exploration footage from her controlled robot with him. Hearing the term "godly guy," both Lu Chuanyu and Song Yuan by his side were surprised. This girl, who seemed cool and distant on the outside, was actually calling Lin Zikin "godly guy" in front of everyone? Lin Zikin sure had a great charm. Both Lu Chuanyu and Song Yuan thought to themselves at the same time. Meanwhile, Lin Zikin, the subject of these musings, was intently staring at the shared screen projected by Lu Qingyu, fearful of missing any detail. The cave was very large, with the diameter looking to be over 10 meters. It was also very deep. The exploration robot had already penetrated over a kilometer downward, yet had not touched the bottom. "It's so deep." Shen Qinghan beside him couldn't help but exclaim. Lu Qingyu also said, "It's so strange. Despite being over a kilometer deep, the temperature detected is the same as the normal temperature on the surface." Lin Zikin kept silent, continuously watching the shared screen, observing the cavern within the image. Focusing his attention on the cave walls. He noticed that the cave walls looked unnatural, covered with plant roots that seemed to reinforce the structure of the cave. The roots were arranged in a regular pattern, one after another, woven together like a net. Besides that, the walls were embedded with a large number of deep blue crystals. These deep blue crystals, hidden beneath the roots of the plants, constantly emitted thin, barely visible mist. If things were as expected, it must be those deep blue crystals that maintained a constant temperature within the seemingly bottomless cave. What amazing crystals, they could be used as air conditioning. I wonder if they are evolution resources. Lin Zikin murmured to himself, already contemplating the deep blue crystals in the depths of the cave. No, it's too deep. The depth of this cave has already far exceeded the robot's exploration range. We can't continue the exploration, Lu Qingyu said, frowning slightly. The other mechanically modified humans around were, without exception, thinking the same thing. These caves that had suddenly appeared on the ground were incomprehensibly deep, and simply could not be explored. "Professor Gao, how is your research going over there?" The high-ranking military officer at the military district headquarters, having given up on exploring the cave, turned to an old man studying the scarlet giant tree and asked. Professor Gao shook his head and sighed, "Not very well. This exotic plant is too peculiar. I've never seen an exotic plant that can grow over a kilometer tall. Not even anything similar." On hearing this response, everyone present was somewhat at a loss for a moment. The cave exploration was impractical. Nothing significant could be discerned from the scarlet giant tree. The rat plague had been dealt with. All of a sudden, it seemed like there was nothing to do. In light of this, someone suggested, "Why don't we evacuate for now since all the residents here have been safely moved out?" Another person agreed, "I also think it's better to evacuate for now, seal off this area temporarily, and let the stronger entities handle it when they return." The high-ranking officer replied, "That's all we can do." After some deliberation, everyone present felt it was best to evacuate, as there was no need to unnecessarily increase the risk. After all, none of them was strong, not even a rare-level fighter. There was nothing they could do by staying. Better to leave early. Just wait for the stronger entities to come back and address the issues here. However, Just as everyone was preparing to leave, the tranquil ground suddenly made a tremendous noise. The very next second, near the skyscraping giant trees, almost 10,000 meters away, countless thick scarlet vines erupted from the ground, rocketing towards the sky at high speed. These vines interwove with each other, forming a massive circular wall, encircling a 10-mile radius centered on the scarlet giant tree within an impenetrable tree cage. Before people could react to what had happened, suddenly, those caves around them emitted violent tremors. Following that, swarms of oddly shaped creatures burst forth. Beneath the scarlet giant tree, a horde of both familiar and wholly unknown monstrous exotic beasts appeared. Everyone was fleeing. Not fleeing would mean death. High-level experts covered the rear, while allowing the ordinary-level students to retreat. Now, let's describe Linziken's capabilities. He slaughtered various exotic beasts. P.S. Bowing down, I ask for your monthly pass recommendations.